Have you ever wondered why the people you call friends disappear when life turns dark? It's a question that cuts deep because most of us carry the belief that someone will always be there. But the reality is harsher than we want to admit. The truth is that no one is truly your friend when the storms hit hardest. The ones you thought would stand by your side will sometimes vanish. And that truth, though painful, can become the very key to your strength if you dare to face it with open eyes and an unshaken heart. Think about the times you were left alone, feeling invisible, when you needed support most. You might remember the silence of your phone when you cried for help. You might recall the way people looked away because your struggle made them uncomfortable. That pain wasn't just loneliness, it was a lesson carved into your soul. It was life whispering to you, stop waiting for others to save you. Stop waiting for someone to carry you when you were born with legs strong enough to walk, run, and climb. This is not betrayal, it is awakening. When you accept that no one is your true friend in the pure sense, you stop depending on fragile hands to steady you. You stop begging for loyalty from people who are caught in their own battles. You begin to rise from within, carrying a fire that no one else can extinguish. That's when life shifts. That's when you stop living as a victim of neglect and start living as a creator of destiny. Because the harsh truth is this: the world does not owe you comfort, loyalty, or love, but you owe yourself the courage to move forward, even when your path is silent and empty. This truth, though heavy, carries a hidden gift. If no one is your true friend, then no one has the power to chain you down. You are free from false expectations, free from the disappointment that comes when people reveal their limits. Instead of drowning in loneliness, you can use it as fuel to build resilience, focus, and strength that no betrayal can destroy. Imagine how powerful you become when you no longer need applause to keep walking. Imagine the energy you unlock when your motivation does not depend on anyone's approval. That kind of power makes you unstoppable. Stay with me, because if you've ever felt abandoned, this message is for you. If you've ever felt invisible, this message is your answer. You will learn how to turn solitude into strength, how to use the silence of absent friends as the voice that drives you forward. By the end of this journey, you won't fear being alone. You will welcome it as the foundation of your rise. The pain you once hated will become your weapon. The disappointment you once feared will become your training ground. And when you walk into your future with this mindset, you won't just survive without friends. You will thrive, unshaken, unstoppable, and fully alive. When you stop expecting others to rescue you, something shifts inside you. The fear of abandonment begins to lose its grip because you no longer build your strength on the shaky foundation of someone else's presence. You realize that the only person who has never left you is the one looking back at you in the mirror. That person has been with you in every moment of pain, in every night of doubt, in every silent battle you fought when no one else noticed. And when you finally see this truth, a new power awakens, a power that doesn't beg for support but creates it from within. The mind is wired to seek connection. We crave acceptance because it once kept us alive. But what once protected us can also keep us weak if we never outgrow it. When you rely too much on others, you hand them the keys to your confidence. You let their presence dictate your strength. Their approval determine your worth. That's why the moment they walk away, you feel empty. But the emptiness is not a curse. It is an invitation. It is your chance to build an identity that no absence can break. Imagine what it means to walk into every room, not needing validation, not needing a hand to hold, but radiating certainty that you can stand alone. That is freedom. Every disappointment you've ever faced has been training. Every broken bond, every unanswered call, every moment you felt invisible has been preparing you for this truth. You don't need them to rise. You never did. You only believed you did because you confused comfort with strength. Real strength is born when you strip away the illusions. Real strength is forged in the fire of solitude, when you decide to keep moving even when no one claps for you. That is where unshakable confidence is born. When you embrace this, you stop living in fear of being let down. You stop giving people the power to determine your destiny. And that shift is priceless because most people waste their lives waiting for loyalty that never comes, waiting for support that never arrives. But you are not meant to wait. You are meant to walk, even when the path is empty. Because the road to greatness has always been lonely. Those who rise above the rest are not carried, they climb. They bleed, they fall, they rise again, not because someone pushed them forward, but because they refuse to stay down. This is why understanding that no one is truly your friend can be the most empowering realization of your life. It frees you from illusions, from false expectations, from chains of disappointment. It teaches you to stop begging for what others cannot give and start building what only you can create. And once you build that inner fortress, nothing can touch you. Not betrayal, not abandonment, not rejection. You become the kind of person who cannot be broken because your strength comes from the only source that can never leave, you. That is why this message matters. Because once you claim that truth, the loneliness that once crushed you will become the very reason you soar. You will no longer fear being alone because you will see solitude as proof of your strength. You will no longer chase friendships to fill the silence because the silence itself will remind you of your unshakable power. And when you reach that point, no one can stop you. There comes a moment when you realize that people are not failing you on purpose. They are not absent because you are unworthy. They are absent because they are consumed by their own fears, their own struggles, their own battles you may never see. And this is why expecting others to carry you will always leave you broken. Everyone is fighting to keep their own head above water. Some may care, some may even want to help, but their energy is limited. Their focus is divided. If you place your survival in their hands, you risk sinking the moment they slip. That is why your power must never depend on anyone else's strength. Human beings are wired to disappoint, not because they are cruel, but because they are imperfect. That truth is not meant to make you bitter. It is meant to set you free. Once you stop demanding from people what they cannot give, you remove the poison of resentment from your heart. You stop asking, why weren't they there for me? And you start saying, I will be there for myself. That shift changes everything. It transforms loneliness into clarity, pain into discipline, silence into focus. It is the moment you stop waiting for the world to validate you and begin creating your own validation through action. Think of the strength that rises when you no longer fear being left behind. Fear loses its grip because it has nothing to hold on to. Rejection no longer breaks you because your identity isn't built on acceptance. Abandonment no longer crushes you because your spirit knows how to stand alone. And once you stand alone, something extraordinary happens. People begin to notice. The world respects the one who doesn't beg for attention, who doesn't crumble in silence, who builds even when no one is watching. Independence commands admiration, but more importantly, it commands self-respect. The hardest battles will always be fought within your own mind. The voice that tells you you're weak without support, that whispers you can't make it alone, that voice is the real enemy. It thrives on fear, on self-doubt, on the illusion that you need others to survive. But when you face it and silence it with action, you break free. Every step you take on your own becomes proof. Every challenge you conquer alone becomes evidence that you are stronger than you ever believed. That evidence becomes your shield, and with it, no storm can destroy you. This is how transformation begins. Not with promises from friends, not with comfort from others, but with the decision to no longer wait. The moment you commit to yourself fully, life bends in your favor. You begin to attract opportunities instead of chasing validation. You begin to walk with a presence that needs nothing but your own conviction. And when people see that, some will follow you, some will admire you, but none of them will define you because you are no longer defined by who stays or who leaves. You are defined by your own relentless will to rise. When you reach this state, you stop looking at friendship as a lifeline. You see it for what it really is, a gift, not a guarantee. You appreciate it without clinging to it. And if it fades, you remain unbroken. Because your strength is not borrowed. It is not fragile. It is yours, unshakable, eternal, and enough. The moment you stop depending on others to define your worth, you begin to experience a new kind of freedom. It feels unfamiliar at first, almost uncomfortable, because the world has conditioned you to believe that belonging is everything. But belonging at the cost of your authenticity is nothing more than a prison disguised as comfort. True freedom is when you no longer need to adjust who you are to keep people close. True freedom is when you can stand tall, even if it means standing alone. That kind of freedom carries a power so rare that most will never taste it, yet it is waiting for you the second you decide to trust yourself completely. Loneliness may feel like a wound, but hidden within it is the seed of transformation. When you face it without running, you discover that it is not an enemy but a mirror. It reflects back your deepest fears, your hidden insecurities, the parts of you that have always depended on others to stay alive. And when you confront those reflections head on, something incredible happens. You strip away the illusions. You realize that the parts of you once thought were fragile are capable of more than you imagined. You realize that you are not as dependent as you once believed. That discovery is liberation. Psychologists speak of resilience as the ability to adapt and recover after hardship. But resilience does not appear in the presence of constant comfort. It is forged in isolation, in struggle, in the nights when you had no one to turn to but yourself. Those nights were not curses. They were your training ground. Every time you survived one of those moments, you built strength. Every time you stood up after being left behind, you proved that you are more powerful than your circumstances. That proof is your evidence, and it will carry you further than the promises of any so-called friend. Once you recognize your own resilience, your perspective shifts. You no longer beg for consistency from people who cannot give it. You no longer chain your future to the instability of others. Instead, you start to move forward with clarity and purpose. The world suddenly feels less threatening because you know you can handle whatever it throws at you. And with that certainty, you begin to walk differently. You begin to carry yourself with a quiet strength that does not scream for attention but commands respect. This is the transformation most people never reach because they fear the silence too much. They fear the idea of having no one to lean on. But what they don't realize is that the silence they fear is the very place where unshakable confidence is born. The solitude they avoid is the birthplace of their greatest power. If you can endure it, if you can embrace it, you will discover that no absence can weaken you, no betrayal can break you, no rejection can stop you. You become someone who no longer measures life by who stayed or who left, but by how far you've risen despite it all. That shift makes you unstoppable. Because when your strength is no longer tied to the fragile loyalty of others, it becomes limitless. You are no longer asking for permission to live boldly. You are no longer waiting for support to step forward. You move because it is your nature to rise, and nothing can take that away from you. Strength built in solitude is not ordinary strength. It is different from the confidence that comes from being cheered on or supported by others. It is deeper, heavier, and impossible to fake. It does not fade when the room grows quiet or when the crowd walks away. It remains steady and unshaken because it was never borrowed in the first place. That strength becomes a shield that protects you from the chaos of life. It becomes a compass that guides you when others hesitate. And it becomes the one thing no betrayal, no rejection, and no abandonment can ever strip away. Most people live their lives chained to the opinions of others. They dress, speak, and act in ways designed to be accepted. They measure their worth through the lenses of approval, terrified of standing out, terrified of being misunderstood. But you were not born to live as a shadow. You were born to stand in your own light, even if no one else sees it. And the only way to claim that light is to stop allowing the presence or absence of others to dictate who you are. The moment you decide that you are enough without validation, the chains begin to fall. The human brain is wired for survival, and survival once depended on belonging to a group. But what once kept our ancestors alive now keeps many people trapped in fear. They fear solitude because their instincts scream that it means danger. Yet in today's world, solitude is not danger, it is freedom. It is the space where creativity is born, where focus sharpens, where strength compounds. It is in solitude that you hear the voice of your true self, the voice drowned out by the noise of shallow friendships and empty approval. And once you learn to hear it, you will never again mistake loneliness for weakness. There is a difference between being alone and being abandoned. Being alone is a physical state. Being abandoned is a belief that you are powerless without others. When you shed that belief, abandonment loses its sting. You see clearly that no one's absence has the power to define your future. You realize that everything you once thought you needed from others, encouragement, support, validation, already exists inside you, waiting to be claimed. That realization transforms you. It turns what once hurt you into proof that you are unstoppable. Every setback in your life becomes a lesson. Every silence becomes space to grow. Every loss becomes a spark for your resilience. When you look at life through this lens, You stop fearing the withdrawal of others. You start to welcome it because it reveals your true power. You begin to understand that the less you depend on others, the more control you have over your destiny. You are no longer a passenger in your own story. You are the driver, holding the wheel with steady hands. And here lies the greatest gift of all. When you no longer fear walking alone, you gain the courage to walk anywhere. You stop avoiding paths that look difficult. You stop shrinking from challenges that scare others because you know that even if no one joins you, you will still keep moving. That confidence is rare. That courage is rare. And those who cultivate it are the ones who rise while the rest wait for help that never comes. The world has a way of testing those who choose to stand on their own. It will place obstacles in your path not to destroy you, but to see if your strength is real. Every challenge becomes a question. Will you fold because no one is standing beside you, or will you rise because you finally understand that you are enough? This is the moment that separates those who wait for approval from those who claim their destiny. And when you rise alone, you prove not just to the world, but to yourself that nothing can stop you. Fear whispers that you cannot do it without support. Doubt tells you that you are not ready. These voices are powerful because they sound familiar. They echo the lies you've heard from those who abandoned you. But the truth is louder if you dare to listen. The truth is that every great leap in history was made by someone who trusted themselves when no one else believed. The truth is that you don't need an army behind you. You need courage in your chest, focus in your mind, and an unbreakable refusal to quit. That is more powerful than any friendship, any crowd, any applause. When you realize this, your relationship with fear changes. You stop seeing it as a barrier and start seeing it as fuel. Fear becomes proof that you are on the edge of growth, standing at the doorway to transformation. And in those moments when your hands shake and your heart races, you remind yourself you are not here to be comfortable. You are here to rise. And the rise always demands risk, always demands discomfort, always demands that you walk alone through the fire no one else is willing to face. The beauty of this path is that the fire that once threatened to consume you becomes the very fire that forges you. The pain that once broke you becomes the foundation of your resilience. The silence that once haunted you becomes the space where your vision grows clearer. What once felt like punishment becomes preparation. Life is not hurting you when it removes false friends. It is carving away everything weak so that only your true strength remains. You must understand this deeply. Self-reliance is not isolation. It is empowerment. It does not mean rejecting others. It means refusing to collapse when they are gone. It does not mean closing your heart. It means opening your eyes. And with those eyes open, you see that the people around you may come and go, but your mission does not depend on them. Your vision does not wait for them. Your destiny is not paused by their absence. You keep moving because you are no longer walking for their approval. You are walking for your purpose. And once purpose becomes your fuel, no betrayal can derail you. No rejection can paralyze you. No silence can break you. You will walk forward whether the world applauds or ignores, whether people gather or scatter, whether anyone understands you or not. Because the power that carries you is no longer fragile. It is yours, forged in fire, tested in solitude, and proven by every step you take when no one else is there. That power will not fade. It will not leave. It will not abandon you. It is the truest friend you will ever have, your own unstoppable will to rise. The greatest trap you must escape is the belief that someone else will one day complete you. That idea is the root of endless disappointment because no person alive has the power to fill the space inside you that was meant to be built by your own hands. You can share moments, you can walk with others, you can feel connection, but the core of your strength cannot come from them. If it does, it will collapse the moment they turn away. And that collapse is what keeps so many people living small, never daring to step forward because they are waiting for support that may never arrive. The mind loves safety, and safety often disguises itself as dependence. It tells you to hold back until you feel secure in the loyalty of others. But safety and growth are enemies. Safety whispers that standing alone is too dangerous, that moving without reassurance will only bring pain. Yet the truth is the opposite. Pain does not come from walking alone. Pain comes from waiting for someone to walk with you and realizing too late that no one is coming. That is why breaking free from dependence is the beginning of real freedom. When you stop expecting others to complete you, you discover a fire that was always waiting inside. You begin to see yourself not as someone lacking, but as someone capable. The doubts that once paralyzed you start to lose their weight because you no longer measure your worth by the presence of others. You measure it by your courage to keep going. And courage, unlike friendship, cannot be taken from you. It is forged in decision. Every choice to move forward without waiting for someone's permission strengthens that courage until it becomes unshakable. This shift changes the way you see everything. Instead of fearing solitude, you begin to embrace it. Instead of dreading silence, you begin to crave it because you realize that in those quiet moments, you are building the core of who you truly are. You are not pretending. You are not adjusting. You are not bending to keep anyone beside you. You are simply rising, becoming, and discovering how powerful you really are. That discovery is not temporary. It lasts a lifetime. It carries you into every new challenge, every unknown horizon, every storm that once would have crushed you. And with this strength, you no longer seek to be completed. You seek to create. You channel your energy not into chasing people, but into building the life that aligns with your deepest vision. You pour yourself into growth, into discipline, into resilience. And in that process, you begin to shine. Not the kind of shine that needs to be seen, but the kind that cannot be hidden. The kind of shine that is undeniable because it comes from within. Those who once left you behind may never understand how much their absence gave you. They thought their silence was a wound, but it became your weapon. They thought their rejection was your end, but it became your beginning. And now, you walk with the certainty that no one can take away, the certainty that you are whole, not because someone stood beside you, but because you learned to stand alone. And in that wholeness, you become unstoppable. The power of standing alone is that it makes you unshakable in a world that constantly shifts. People will change. Circumstances will change. Promises will fade. But when your foundation is rooted in your own strength, none of it has the power to break you. You no longer live at the mercy of other people's loyalty or attention. You no longer shrink when someone walks away. You understand that their absence does not take anything from you because everything you truly need is already inside. That realization is the birth of true freedom. Think about what happens when you stop relying on others for stability. Fear begins to lose its grip because you know you can handle whatever comes. Doubt begins to fade because your past has already proven your resilience. You stop wasting time chasing acceptance and start using that energy to build yourself. This is the turning point where your entire life begins to shift, not because people finally supported you, but because you stop needing them to. That is the difference between those who wait and those who win. The psychology of resilience shows that independence creates confidence. Every time you act without needing reassurance, your brain rewires itself. It learns that you are capable. It learns that you can trust yourself. That trust compounds, building layer upon layer of self-belief until it becomes unshakable. And when self-belief takes root, no one's rejection can tear it down. No one's betrayal can uproot it. You become a fortress that stands regardless of who stays or who leaves. That is why solitude is not weakness. It is the crucible where strength is forged. There will always be people who misunderstand this strength. They will call it arrogance. They will call it coldness. But what they cannot see is that it is clarity. You are not rejecting connection. You are refusing to build your life on illusions. You are not closing yourself off. You are grounding yourself so deeply that no disappointment can throw you off balance. That is a level of control most will never reach because they cling to the hope that others will define their worth. But you no longer wait for that. You define it yourself, and that is why you are free. Freedom does not mean you walk without pain. It means you walk with pain and still move forward. Freedom does not mean you never face rejection. It means rejection no longer dictates your path. Freedom does not mean you never feel loneliness. It means loneliness no longer weakens you because you have turned it into strength. That is the kind of power no one can give you and no one can take away. When you arrive at this place, you understand the truth. No one is your friend in the way you once hoped. And yet, that is not a tragedy. It is a gift. Because if no one is responsible for your rise and no one can limit it either, your life belongs to you. Your future belongs to you. And the sooner you stop waiting for others to carry you, the sooner you discover how high you can climb on your own. When you no longer rely on anyone to validate your existence, a new kind of focus takes over your life. Energy that was once wasted on wondering who truly cared about you, who would stay, who would leave, suddenly returns to you. That energy fuels your growth, your discipline, your hunger for something greater. You begin to realize that your time is too precious to be spent questioning loyalty. Every second spent doubting others is a second stolen from building yourself. And the moment you redirect that energy inward, your progress multiplies. The greatest mistake you could make is believing that your worth depends on how people treat you. If they support you, you feel strong. If they ignore you, you feel weak. This dependency creates a life of emotional instability where you rise and fall based on forces you cannot control. But when you anchor your worth in your own commitment to growth, everything changes. You are no longer on a roller coaster. You are steady, unshaken, grounded. Their presence may inspire you, but their absence no longer destroys you. You have become your own foundation. This kind of foundation gives you clarity. You stop chasing approval. You stop trying to convince people of your value. You start to understand that value is not something to be proven. It is something to be lived. And the more you live it, the less you need to explain it. Your actions become your evidence. Your persistence becomes your message. Your discipline becomes your declaration. That is the language the world respects, and is built not through the applause of others, but through your own relentless consistency. Psychology teaches us about self-determination, the idea that true motivation comes from autonomy, competence, and purpose. Autonomy is your independence. Competence is your belief in your ability, and purpose is the meaning that fuels you. All three are born when you stop depending on others to carry you. Autonomy grows when you take responsibility for your path. Competence grows when you overcome challenges alone. Purpose grows when you realize that your mission is bigger than the approval of friends. Together, they form the unbreakable core of a person who cannot be stopped. And when you carry that core inside you, you begin to see the world differently. You no longer feel threatened by the loss of people. You no longer feel desperate to be liked or accepted. You operate with calm certainty, knowing that everything you need is already within you. That calmness is rare. It intimidates those who still depend on the approval of others, but it inspires those who are ready to break free. It makes you a beacon, not because you asked to lead, but because you prove that strength is possible without anyone's hand to hold. This is the true reward of walking alone. You gain power that cannot be borrowed, confidence that cannot be shaken, and vision that cannot be clouded by betrayal. You stop fearing abandonment because you know abandonment cannot destroy what you have built. You stop chasing friends because you know your mission is larger than companionship. And in that freedom, you find the one thing everyone is searching for, but few ever discover: the ability to move forward, no matter who stays, no matter who leaves, no matter what comes. The strength you build by relying on yourself creates a foundation for courage that few ever discover. Most people hesitate to act because they are waiting for reassurance. They want someone to tell them it's safe, someone to promise them they won't fail, someone to guarantee that the path ahead will be smooth. But the truth is, no one can give you that promise. No one can guarantee your success. And if you wait for that kind of certainty, you will wait forever. The only way forward is to create your own certainty, not by knowing every step will be easy, but by knowing you will not quit no matter how hard it gets. This is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who remain stuck. Greatness is not built on perfect conditions. It is built on an unshakable decision to keep moving even when conditions are brutal. And that decision can only come from within you. It is not gifted by encouragement. It is not handed down by support. It is carved from the fire of self-belief, from the decision that your life cannot be held hostage by fear or dependence. When you walk this way, fear transforms. It does not disappear. You still feel it, but it no longer controls you. Instead, it sharpens you. It reminds you that you are stepping into the unknown, and the unknown is where growth lives. If you refuse to step forward without the comfort of others, you will remain trapped in what is familiar. But if you are willing to step forward alone, you open the door to transformation. You give yourself permission to rise beyond what anyone else thought possible. Your greatest ally on this path is discipline. Discipline is proof to yourself that you can rely on you. It is the daily act of showing up even when no one is watching, even when no one claps, even when no one cares. That kind of discipline rewires your identity. You begin to see yourself not as someone who hopes, but as someone who executes, not as someone who waits, but as someone who creates. Discipline is the evidence that you are enough, and that evidence becomes unshakable confidence. With this confidence, you no longer chase people who treat you as temporary. You no longer lower your standards just to avoid being alone.